welcome back to another episode of Robby Reads ASMR. In today's video, we are going to continue reading Aesop's illustrated Fables. This is part 2 in this series. If you missed the first part, where we read the first 10 fables, I will link it in the description if you would like to check it out, and I'll also put it in the video somewhere over here. We're going to read another 10 fables tonight, so without further ado, let's get started. The Fighting Cocks. 2 cocks fought for the sovereignty of the farmyard. One was severely beaten and ran and hid himself in a hole. The conqueror flew to the top of an outhouse. There clapped his wings and crowed out, "Victory!" Just then an eagle made a swoop, seized him, and carried him off. The other, seeing this from his hiding place, came out and, shaking off the recollection of his late disgrace, strutted about among his hens with all the dignity imaginable. At the end of every one of these short fables, there is a moral or lesson to be learned, and this one says, "Bear success with moderation." The Lion's Share. The lion and several other beasts once agreed to live peaceably together in the forest, sharing equally all the spoils of hunting. One day, a fine fat stag fell into a snare set by the goat, who thereupon called the rest together. The lion divided the stag into 4 parts. Taking the best piece for himself, he said, "This is mine, of course, as I am the lion." Taking another portion, he added, "This too is mine by right. The right, if you must know, of the strongest." Further, putting aside the 3rd piece, "That's for the most valiant," said he, "and as for the remaining part, touch it if you dare." Might makes right. The Ass, the Ape, and the Mole. An ass and an ape were one day grumbling together over their grievances. "My ears are so long that people laugh at me," said the ass. "I wish I had horns like the ox." "And I," said the ape, "am really ashamed to turn my back upon anyone. Why should not I have a fine bushy tail as well as that saucy fellow the fox?" "Hold your tongues, both of you," said a mole that overheard them, "and be thankful for what you have. The poor moles have no horns at all, no tail to speak of, and are nearly blind as well." You should never complain so long as there are others worse off than yourself. The Lion, the Tiger, and the Fox. A lion and a tiger happened to come together over the dead body of a fawn that had been recently shot. A fierce battle ensued, and as each animal was in the prime of his age and strength, the combat was long and furious. At last they lay stretched on the ground panting, bleeding, and exhausted, each unable to lift a paw against the other. An impudent fox coming by at the time stepped in and carried off before their eyes the prey, on account of which they had both fought so savagely. "Woe betide us," said the lion, "that we should suffer so much to serve a fox." It often happens that one has the toil and another the profit. You can see these illustrations of the fox and the aftermath of the battle. The Cat and the Mice. A certain house was much infested by mice. The owner brought home a cat, a famous mouser, who soon made such havoc among the little folk that those who were left stayed closely in the upper shelves. Then the cat grew hungry and thin, and, driven to her wits' end, hung by her hind legs and pretended to be dead, in order that the mice would no longer be afraid to come near her. An old mouse came to the edge of the shelf and, seeing through the trick, cried out, "Aha, Mrs. Pussy! We should not come near you, even if your skin were stuffed with straw. Old birds are not to be caught with chaff." The two frogs. Two frogs lived in the same pool. The hot summer came and dried it up, so that they were forced to set forth in search of other water. As they went along, they chanced to find a deep well full of cool water. "Let us jump in here," cried one of the frogs. "Wait a bit," said the other. "If that too should dry up, how could we get out again?" And the moral of this one is easier in than out. The Peacock's complaint. The Peacock complained to Juno that while everyone laughed at his voice, an insignificant creature like the nightingale had a note that delighted all listeners. Juno, angry at the unreasonableness of her favorite bird, scolded him in the following terms. "Envious bird that you are, I am sure you have no cause to complain. On your neck shine all the colors of the rainbow, and your extended tail gleams like a mass of gems. No living being has every good thing to its own share. The falcon is endowed with swiftness, the eagle strength, the parrot speech, the raven the gift of augury, and the nightingale a melodious note, while you have both size and beauty. Cease then to complain, or the gifts you have shall be taken away. Contentment should be the source of every joy." The man and his two wives. In a country where men could have more than one wife, a certain man, whose head was fast becoming white, had two, one a little older than himself and one much younger. The young wife, being of a gay and lively turn, did not want people to think that she had an old man for a husband, and so used to pull out as many of his white hairs as she could. The old wife, on the other hand, did not wish to seem older than her husband, and so used to pull out the black hairs. This went on until between them both they made the poor man quite bald. No man can belong to two parties at once. The Countryman and the Snake. A countryman, one frosty day in the depth of winter, found a snake under a hedge almost dead with the cold. Taking pity on the poor creature, he brought it home and laid it on the hearth near the fire. Revived by the heat, it reared itself up, and with dreadful hissings flew at the wife and children of its benefactor. The countryman, hearing their cries, rushed in, and seizing a mattock, soon cut the snake in pieces. "Vile wretch," said he, "is this the reward you make to him who saved your life? Die, as you deserve, but a single death is too good for you." Ingratitude is a crime. The Kite and the Pigeons. A kite that had kept sailing around a dove-cote looking for a nice fat pigeon for many days, to no purpose, was forced by hunger to have recourse to stratagem. Approaching the pigeon in his gentlest manner, he tried to show them how much better their state would be if they had a king, with some firmness about him, and how well his protection would shield them from the attacks of the hawk and other enemies. The pigeons, deluded by this show of reason, admitted him to the dove-cote as their king. They found, however, that he thought it part of his kingly prerogative to eat one of their number every day, and they soon reported of their credulity in having let him in. "Ah," they exclaimed in despair, "we deserve no better. Why did we heed the counsel of an enemy? Trust not your security to one who puts his own interests first." The two crabs. "My dear," called out an old crab to her daughter one day, "why do you sidle along in that awkward manner? Why don't you go forward like other people?" "Well, mother," answered the young crab, "it seems to me that I go exactly like you do. Go first and show me how, and I will gladly follow. Example is better than precept." This one is probably my favorite of the ones we've read so far, just because of how silly this illustration looks. This is the mama crab, and this is the child. And look, they have shoes, which I find funny. Take a look at the illustrations. For this one, this is the rooster. And then we have the fox. And the cat hanging from its hind legs on the hook, waiting for the mice to come out. The two frogs. I quite like this one because it's very colorful. It's the Peacock and Juno. The Countryman and the Snake. I'm quite enjoying this book so far. There are so many different fables in it. I hope you enjoyed the ones that I read today. Like I said before, I will link part 1 in the description if you would like to check that out. Thank you for joining me while I read Aesop's illustrated Fables. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Robby Reads ASMR, and hit the notification bell so you are notified of future videos. Let me know in the comments which fable was your favorite, or if you have a favorite fable that I have not read, let me know so that I can read it in a future video. Thanks again for tuning in,